Laszlo here from Q101 Chicago, and it's a Case 4, a series in which I have coerced management into letting me talk to my favorite bands, and it is an honor to bring somebody to the show who has come up in so many interviews before. Drug Church, Self-Defense Family, S.W.A.T, Axe to Grind podcast. You wrote a comic book that I bought my brother for Christmas this year. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Kindlon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That's a nice introduction.
I am delighted you're here. I kind of can't believe you agreed to do it. Not that you're a cagey man. I just figured you had better things to do, quite honestly.
I was just going to play Fortnite.
Is that how you kill time on the road?
Yeah, we do like 3 hours a day.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for you. Now, on desktop, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
Laptop, rather.
Okay, all right, right on. Congratulations on this tour. I feel like this is maybe something that your bandmates had to convince you to do. I was a little surprised when I saw the Alkaline Trio Drug Church booking, but by all accounts, it's going very well.
It's going well. No, they didn't have to convince me. They are Alkaline Trio heads.
Okay.
I couldn't consider myself that, but I mean, those first 3 records, I was right in the lane for when that would have been really like popping with my demographic and all that, and it missed me. It wasn't until like 6 years after that era that I gave it a shot, and I maintain that they have the best songs in their genre. You know what I mean? By far. No disrespect to the Blink 182s of the world or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm happy for everybody's success, but truly, Alkaline Trio's songs are just better.
There's probably not a better album, top to bottom in the genre, than From Here to Infirmary.
Yeah, I agree.
It's borderline perfect. It's really nice.
But the problem is, so I say this, but then I kind of have to say, what else is in the genre, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, you could call it, if you wanted to use a loaded term, you could use pop punk, or you could say like a highly accessible punk, but I don't know what else falls in that.
Yeah, maybe it's a more mature pop punk, maybe, because it's not as juvenile as Blink.
No, Blink's pretty juvenile. But, I don't know. I just think that this is going to sound crazy to some listeners, but depending on who maybe they'll get it. I compare it to Tom Petty, not obviously in sound, but just in the fact that the songs are so perfectly constructed. You know what I mean? You never lost in a Tom Petty song.
No, that's true.
You know what I mean? He would joke, just get to the chorus, right?
Yeah.
And Alkaline Trio at their best, you're like excited for the chorus because you know that it's going to be very fulfilling. I just think that they write the best songs in that style. And again, I guess neither of us are experts in that style, but it just, to me, they didn't have to convince me, is all I'm saying.
I'm proud to consider myself not an expert in pop punk.
Yeah.
I wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I do consider myself to be a little bit of an expert in Drug Church.
Oh.
We're sitting in the Aragon Ballroom tonight. Very big room.
Big room.
Does this room scare you at all?
No.
Okay.
So, this is not a flex in any regard. I don't get nervous, not because I'm so filled with confidence, but just because I've failed on every size stage that there is. And once you fail that much, just nothing scares you anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm not intimidated. That doesn't mean I'll do a great job.
I think you will.
But
I'm looking forward to it.
But it just means that I've shit my pants in front of like 3,000 people. It's not. Yeah.
No, you had a chance to do it in 4,500 tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Big room. They would always say, I think maybe this will make sense to you, but when Morrissey would come to Chicago, they would always say he would struggle a little bit more in this room than maybe like the Riv across the street of the Chicago Theater because there's such a long gap between the stage and the barricade. It's quite large, but I trust that you can handle it.
Morrissey's better at his job than I am. So it might be, you know what I mean? It might be a struggle.
We just celebrated the 30th anniversary of Vauxhall and I, which I think is the greatest album ever. So I'm going to unfortunately agree with you, but I also think you're quite good.
That's an interesting pick.
To begin an album with Now My Heart Is Full is one of the ballsiest things I've ever seen. And then just to have Why Don't You Find Out For Yourself just hiding halfway through it.
Yeah,
and then to close with Speedway. It's marvelous.
See, those are two of those are almost deep cuts, though. You're skipping over records that have like hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, no, I think the way it flows together is beautiful because like I think the 11th track is Lifeguard Sleeping Girl Drowning, which in itself not a very good song, but when you contextualize it within the album, it adds this other layer of noise and ambiance that I think is just incredible. Top to bottom, it to me is just the best thing that's ever been produced.
I did not know that the radio held these contrarian takes, but
I would argue it's possibly holding back my career.
Yeah,
I should be pumping Imagine Dragons a little bit more, but we are here nonetheless. Talking about crowd control, I interviewed Kevin from Lurk, the best Chicago band there is.
Sure.
And we talked about the tour that they went on with you. You come up on the show a lot. There's a lot of just like, hey, you know Patrick Kindlon, please tell me about him. He fascinates me questions.
Wow.
But I was telling him that I saw you guys in the Beat Kitchen 2 years ago, and within a collective scene, there's just a lot of different people that can meet in the same room for one common interest, but it's very hard to get 200, 250 people, however many people were there, to agree on one commonality. And I felt very moved that night because the instructions were very clear and everybody was on the same page, which never happens. Everybody agreed by the rules you set in place. If somebody jumps, you catch them and you carry them to the back of the room. And it was perhaps the most profound sense of community that I have ever felt in my entire life. And I'm just curious, going back to the early days of end of a year to now where you're at with Drug Church, have you always had, dare I say, a cult leader-like charisma, this ability to control people on stage? Or is this something that's come in only your later years?
You need to get into those COD lobbies.
Oh, really?
If you want to feel community.
Okay.
Up until this point in my career, I haven't had to do it, right? Like, I played half full rooms for the majority of my life, so it wasn't, crowd control was not the biggest priority, but since Drug Church got a little energy around it, I just want to make sure that it's selfish. I don't want to get distracted with somebody's head being splashed open.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Of course I care about you all in the abstract, but it's really, in the moment, it's just, hey, I can't enjoy myself at all if like a 19-year-old girl's head is crushed.
No, it's the last time Angel Dust played here, like I saw somebody get knocked out.
Right.
And it was a bummer. Like it took me out of 4 or 5 songs, and I'm not performing, I'm just standing there.
Right. And so, on this tour, there's people that arrive early to be in that front row, and they plant themselves there because they want to see Alkaline Trio. That's their favorite band. And I've on a couple occasions I've had to just double check everybody all right. On one time we had to ask a girl to come over the barrier, take her spot again after, just because if people look like they're scared for their life, it's not really. I love those sort of bands, but we're not that type of band. I'm not looking to make you have you're not supposed to have PTSD after you come to our shows. You're supposed to have a good time. So I try to be mindful of everybody's safety while not doing too much hand-holding or
no, I don't think it's a policing thing by any means. I think it's marvelous. The Alkaline Trio crowd, I would imagine, a little bit older than the people you normally play to, but by all accounts, they've been pretty responsive to Drug Church.
Well, I don't want to say shocked because I don't know what I expected, but it is a credit to Alkaline Trio. There's going to be 15-year-olds at the show tonight.
Really?
It's the widest age variety I've ever seen at a show. Now, some of those 15-year-olds might be the sons or daughters of, 45-year-old Alkaline Trio fans, whatever. That's all possible. But it is, it's been really impressive. I mean, you get every age. But yes, there are a lot of people who are 30 plus or whatever, and I think Drug Church's average listener, if I had to guess based on crowds, 25.
I'm 25, so that makes sense.
So a little bit older, but pretty good variety, and they have been very responsive. I've been very satisfied. Some shows you can tell there's people that know us and like us.
Yeah.
But other shows, we played North Carolina. What the hell is the city of North Carolina?
Raleigh?
No.
Cities in
Charlotte. We played Charlotte. Shout out to Charlotte. Sorry, I forgot the name of your city.
Lovely city.
Lovely city. And I didn't feel like but 3 people in that room knew us. And I had to work. You know what I mean? But it was, firstly, it's nice because we've done a number of tours lately where either we headlined or we co-headlined or we on that Drain tour that you saw us on, we weren't co-headlining, but the majority of the people in the room were familiar with our work.
It was one big party. It felt like every band, and this will sound corny, it felt like every band was a headliner.
Yeah,
it was a marvelous lineup.
It was a really great, really well put together lineup. So we've been spoiled, and coming into the Alkaline Trio shows, you know, depending on the space, there's people that know us and like us, but sometimes not, you know, maybe 10%, and it's really nice to have to earn people's movement. You know what I mean? Because I think comedians talk about this a lot. And Steve Martin apparently quit stand-up for this reason. Apparently, you know, it might be apocryphal, but he noticed people were laughing at things that weren't funny. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think bands can find themselves in the same situation where they're not putting out a maximum output, but people are still going off. And that's because they know you, they like you, and they know what to expect, and they're doing the work. But you know, you play a room like this, and it's not the case.
No,
you know? So
big room.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to win some people's hearts and minds today.
I'm looking forward to it. We just passed the 2-year anniversary of Hygiene.
Oh, yeah, we got to put out records more often.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
2 years beyond the fact, I just think about when that album was coming out, I found your press cycle to be very entertaining. I think specifically the interview you did with David Anthony at Stereo Gum, you were like, yep, this might be a bad one. This, you know, every band's got to put out a bad record at some point. First of all, maybe a hot take, but I think I might prefer Hygiene over anything else in the catalog. But,
yeah, I think I do for sure.
Okay, all right, well, I was going to ask, you know, 2 years beyond, how are you feeling about that record?
I feel good about that record. I like it quite a bit. You know, Cheer has a lot of classics. Listen, I sound like such a fucking asshole. Cheer has songs that are staples of our set. Let's say no classics. It is a staple of our set.
Hits, dare I say?
But so you know, I think in your mind you're kind of thinking, oh, I get that pop for some of these Cheer songs. Maybe it's the better record. It's not the better record. You know what I mean? Those songs are they're easy to move to. I get a lot of haptic feedback, etc. But it doesn't mean it's a better record. I think Hygiene is a better record.
Hygiene reminds me a lot of the last Fiddlehead record in the sense that the one that they put out before, much like Cheer, it was a moment, there was growth, it was obvious, like, oh, something is happening here, that it was so hard to follow up. But, like, first of all, if you didn't love the last Fiddlehead record, listen to it again. It's going to hit the next time you listen to it. And Hygiene, the more I think about it, it's like, oh, Super Saturated, that's a banger. Athlete on the Bench, which you're playing on this tour, that's a banger. Bangers all throughout the album. It's marvelous, dare I say.
I like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, but, you know, when you talk about expectations, how it's hard to follow something up, I think you have to, what is that, Ghost Dog, maybe, the movie?
I'm not a movie guy, I could not tell you.
I think it's Ghost Dog. There's these little, what do you call them? Well, not placards, little title cards in between scenes. And I think one of them reads, it's supposed to be a samurai thing, whatever. When it's raining, don't attempt to stay dry by running under the eaves of houses, except that you're already wet. And I think that's how bands got to be about. You're gonna brick at some point. You can't be scared. You know what I mean? Like, it's like going on stage. Like, it's a lot of people here tonight. I might brick. You know what I mean? Like it just happens. And I think when you put yourself in a state of mind where you're like, all I do is win, I think that's like pretty maladjusted. Yeah. You know what I mean? I also think it's like there's some, I don't know if it's macho or so, but there's a lot of posturing because I don't even know if people want that from you. Normal people want to understand, oh, the artist that I like it's not, if he's Superman, that's, you know, I mean, it's not good to be impenetrable in that way. It's, I understand like rap, there's some sort of like braggadocious thing.
Yeah, low confidence rap is an odd place to be.
Yeah. That doesn't usually fly. But,
no, not really.
But I think that for, you know, five-person band guitar music, I think you got to be, if not vulnerable, you at least got to be, you got to present in a somewhat honest fashion. And I think it's okay to, although now, it's funny that your takeaway from the last album cycle was Patrick doesn't know if this is a good record, because there's a band, I won't say who, but they always filled themselves with, they always kind of marketed themselves as being uber confident. And regarding their newest record, they came with a completely different vibe, and the vibe was, I don't know, man.
I'm going to ask you off the air who that is, because I think I know.
And I thought that was, you know, in some ways refreshing, right? Like you want to see different parts of people, but at the same time, it was like, it feels like you're diminished by this. You know what I mean? It feels like you're. It would almost be better to be delusional in that case. But I don't think I've ever sold the idea that all we do is win.
No, living between shrinking margins.
Yeah,
I think it's quite clear. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I have two more things I'd like to touch on.
Sure,
if that's okay. The concept of discourse itself, not anything going on currently. We don't need to do an agnostic front breakdown. I'm sure that's axe to grind this week.
Yeah.
But I'm 25, so the world of hardcore I know is entirely through Twitter and largely by streaming services, and it's all been very accessible to me, and it's kind of easy to tell what is hot and what is not within a moment's notice. When you started going to shows, what was the discourse driver in terms of either the medium or the outlet, or like when you gathered around your friends, how did you know what, in a sense, what to talk about?
Oh, well, that's interesting. So a great example of this is I'm from Albany, New York. What was being talked about in Albany was different than what was being talked about in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And those places aren't terribly far away. You know what I mean? 3.5 maybe, whatever. And so you had much more... you had a siloing of opinions in a lot of ways. For example, in Albany, New York, we really liked the band Candiria. Right? Now, if you talk to somebody from Illinois about Candiria, they do not know what that is.
That's true.
And that's, you know, bands that were touring during that time can tell you. We would play one show, full room, 200 miles away. They'd never heard of us before. And that's because you were relying on things like zines, you know, that maybe not everybody had access to. You know, then you had message boards, and there was a lot of siloing. A lot of things mattered to one scene a lot more than they mattered to another scene. Like if you talk to kids from Atlanta from the 1990s, they will talk to you about all this, you know, religion versus the anti-religious bands, and you have this whole thing that was, none of that touched us where we were. And I mean, even, like I said, New Brunswick, New Jersey was, you know, when my first bands would go to New Jersey, it was like alien territory. You know, it was an alien landscape in a lot of ways. And the things that they cared about were not the things that we cared about. So you were talking about, at that point, zines. People that traveled for shows would tell you about what was going on in another town. But, you know, I'm sure to a lot of people, it sounds like I'm talking about caveman era or something, but using passenger pigeons. But no, that's an interesting thing to reflect on, because there was no monoculture.
Yeah.
Right.
Like even like for me, I know more about the Bridge 9 board being shut down than I do the Bridge 9 board itself.
Yeah,
I don't want to get you in trouble or bring up any PTSD.
No,
but
it's fine.
You know, I only know about, you know, the discourse is driven through Twitter, and half the time I miss it because I try not to be online as much as possible. And then you see Reddit things, but you know, hardcore just in terms of the size and scope is obviously growing, but with that comes discourse, and the scene by scene nature of it is very interesting to me.
Well, yeah, I think so. That's not necessarily gone, but what you'll find now, I see, is like if you go to, I don't want to mess it up. It might be like X Brutal Youth X or something. It's a YouTube channel that does mostly heavy music, right? A lot of those kids do not know anything about the fast music, so things are still siloed by genre, maybe, and you're not. Maybe there's limited crossover discourse in that respect, but whatever that phrase is about the internet, the death of distance.
Yeah.
We have the death of distance. So if you have the same interest as a kid in Alaska, you guys can talk about the new D's Nuts record or whatever, you know what I mean? But you might be siloed off just by your interests from talking about, whatever, new Hounds of Hate or whatever it is. And so it's very different in most regards, but still similar in the respect that sometimes there really is no crossover. Like I'll occasionally, Twitter will diverge into metalcore Twitter for me.
Oh boy,
and
sorry to hear that.
I am lost.
Yeah.
I do not have a clue what anybody's talking about.
No, it's a foreign concept.
There's all this insinuation and innuendo about like this, the guy that we don't talk about, and I'll go, who? I don't know who we don't talk about. Like, what are we talking? Nobody informed me. I might talk about him.
Real quick before we wrap up, can we talk self-defense family for just a second?
Sure.
It's been a while since we've got new music.
So we have 2 demos recorded. We're demoing. Okay. So what we're doing is we are releasing demos. I'm sure that I'll do some press around this that I'll repeat the same thing, so just bear with me.
No, I'm delighted.
Are you familiar with the Led Zeppelin song "In the Light"?
I am not familiar with any Led Zeppelin. Just not a band that's ever grabbed me, but I'm following along.
Many of your listeners on the radio are going to be very mad.
Yeah, I know, they are.
So there's a Led Zeppelin song called "In the Light," and the album version is a very nice song. The demo version is a piece of genius.
Okay.
It does not sound like Led Zeppelin until the vocals kick in, then you go, okay, right. But it is unlike anything else that in their catalog. And it is also a demo, so it sounds rougher, and it sounds, how would I put it? Lo-fi doesn't justify. It sounds lonely, like almost like every instrument is kind of on an island of its own. It's a very moving demo. And it got me thinking, I love this. I love the difference between the album version. Even though the album version is not as thrilling to me, I love the difference. So what we're doing is releasing a few sets of demos ahead of our album. And that way people can very vindictively tell us that they prefer the demo.
Good, I can't wait to also do that.
So, but we have a number of songs recorded. And we have our 3 best songs are without vocals because they're so different than what we do that I don't know what to do with them.
Really?
So yeah, we have these I don't know, like we keep them in a vault. I don't know what to do with them because I just can't sing. I don't have whatever that is. So it's unfortunate. We should
too heavy, too soft?
Too smart?
Really?
Yeah. I don't.
But not like mathy.
Not at all.
Okay.
I just don't know what to do with them.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you might have to have an actual voice to you know what I mean?
I like what you're working with. Real quick, I'll let you go in a second. I don't know if this is the last time we'll talk, so I want to be sure to mention this. End of a Year, You Are Beneath Me. A monumental record in my life.
Wow.
Kind of one of those that if I had caught it 2 years earlier or 2 years later than when I first heard it, it would have been good.
Yeah.
But
it was in the pocket.
I caught it when I was poor and sexually frustrated, and I'm still those, but it's better.
Yeah.
It really just blew the doors off my own brain when I heard it for the first time.
Nice to hear.
Well, I'm curious because I know you're not necessarily someone that likes to look back on your own work. You're not doing, I imagine, a full album play of that anytime soon.
Never in my life.
Seems like it would be torturous for you. But 14 years removed from it, is it something you're proud of, or is it just sort of another thing that we did and we moved on from it?
Yeah, the second one. Not that I'm not proud of it, just with that band, the purpose is always to go into a studio, write and record some songs that reflect how we feel at that time, and then push them out in the world, on to the next thing. It's, perhaps we would have been a better regarded band if we, maybe took time to craft some classics or whatever, but it was just never the type of band we were. It was really, I read an interview with Snapcase many years ago where I think they were probably coming back or whatever. And I think the singer's Daryl. The singer says, I don't like every record we put out, but every record is a snapshot to the exact moment in my life that it was recorded. And not everybody has that. And I value that. And I thought about it, that tracks. It's not like I couldn't listen back to anything we did because it's too painful or it brings me to a bad place. But, you hope in some respects that the phrase, the past is a foreign land, you kind of hope that that's true in some ways, even though, I don't have, my past was nice, but you hope that you're in a different space, So to answer your question, I am both proud of it because I like it, but also, I'm always, Drug Church, these guys want to construct like memorable songs that people can hang on to, but I still, in most respects, would like to, I'm always, let's move on to the next thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just like to move on to the next thing.
I like that. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for your time. A genuine delight for me. Drug Church, Self-Defense Family, Axe to Grind every Tuesday. I listen to it on my way home from work every Tuesday.
That's nice, thank you.
Real quick, any new S.W.A.T stuff coming out?
So Ian wrote a bunch of songs.
That's what I like to hear.
But I don't know when we're going to record them because Ian is on like a proper record label that has he might have to perform it under a fake name. You know what I mean?
They're literally like. We play him on our station. Like Military Gun came in and did an acoustic session with us.
Yeah,
they're that level now.
I think it's like Walter Schreifels famously wrote the Civ record, but couldn't be credited on it. I think it might be some BS like that. We also have a member who is a notable actor, so we were originally going to name the second record 9/11/2. And like that's, if he's trying to get jobs and I'm out here, if I'm, you know what I mean?
I see the problem.
Right. So there's some songs written, and I would love to sing over them, but we'll see when we can get in.
I'm looking forward to it. Patrick Kindlon, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate the thought.